Now, tea or coffee continues with the conversation on entrepreneurship, the do's and don'ts. We have our guest in the studio with us. We're going to be picking up from where we left off before the newspaper review, having a look at some of the views from the net we're able to collect on the question of some of the mistakes that entrepreneurs have made in the line of their business and how they were able to rectify it. Before we get into that, I need to let you know who we actually have in the studio with us. He is a friend of the house. He is a founder of MSME Africa, a multifaceted resource platform for micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in Africa. He is the convener of this platform, a certified trainer, also running Cedar Tribe, a Lagos-based training and consulting outfit. He has demonstrated his passion for entrepreneurship as being a mentor for Tony Elumelu Foundation. Good morning, sir, and he's very glad to have you in the studio.
Good morning, Ade. Thank you for having me here again today.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
You know, once I saw your flyer, I don't know, the team will probably tell you I got really excited.
Wow, thank you so much. This is home, actually.
Yeah? Oh,
it is
that
home.
means a lot to us. That means a lot to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, all right. So we are discussing, before we get into it, Happy Entrepreneurship
Thank
Week.
you. Thank you so much. It's the Global Entrepreneurship Week this week, and you can see I'm actually very excited.
Yeah. How's it been for you? You know,
It's awesome. It's been a busy week. It's going to get a lot busier I've had a series of interviews. We have programs we're planning to do. But of course, we're actually also excited. It's a week set aside to celebrate entrepreneurs all over the world. And so a lot of activities here and there. It's been awesome. It's busy, but we thank God that at least we are being celebrated for what we're doing to help the economies around the world.
Entrepreneurship, you know, before newspaper review, Bolade and I were stating that entrepreneurship is not an easy thing
It is not.
do as well. You know, compared, you know, and this is not even a comparison to 9 to 5, but, you know, with 9 to 5, there's a guarantee for a salary, and we're stating that with an entrepreneurship, there is no particular guarantee, and you have to work the system, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. So sometimes you might just make all the money. You are making millions and billions of naira, and then another month would come and you're not making anything. So nothing is assured for an entrepreneur, so to say. Like you said, the 9 to 5 guy knows that at the end of the month, their last must enter, right? He can plan towards it. But for an entrepreneur, I mean, a lot of things are not certain, so it's a lot of risk. But it's a good thing to do because entrepreneurs help the economies.
Do you think it's for everyone?
No. Now that's it. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. So when people come around with the things like your salary is the bribe you are paid to forget your dream, and they try to castigate 9 to 5 guys. I heard that, and I like, not everybody should be an entrepreneur. There are 9 to 5 guys that are doing quite well, exceptionally well.
Actually,
they can even invest in your business, right? So not everybody should be an entrepreneur. Actually, it requires a lot of grit, a lot of some kind of skill set. And of course, you need to be determined. So we should not force and rush people into entrepreneurship. We shouldn't.
Actually. All right, so on that matter, the question we asked some of our viewers this morning, and we asked them, what mistakes have you made as an entrepreneur, and how did you deal with it? You know, before I get into some of the comments, if you don't mind, what mistakes have you made as an entrepreneur, and how were you able to deal with it?
Very interesting. Okay, so I've attempted entrepreneurship 3 times in my life. Let me just sip my tea. Okay, the first time was after I did my industrial attachment after my OND.
Okay.
So I had a savings of 43,000. I still remember that figure because the thing is still paining me. What happened? So I had 43K. That was the time when mobile phones, not mobile phones, Dex phones. People were buying Dex phones, Starcoms, and some other brands. So you run a business center. So I bought this phone with almost everything that I had saved. I was going back for HND, so I needed to make money, right? So I bought the phone and I kept it with an older friend. He had a shop somewhere in Surulere. And so the idea was like, okay, his shop attendant would man the phone, when he makes the money, then at the end of every week, I come back, collect the money, I give him something, I give my friend something, then I can use that to actually take care of my expenses.
Essentially a call center.
Exactly, a call center, so
Yeah.
to say. So I had to go and buy the phone and everything at that time. So that was what I did. I wanted to live like a big boy during my HND days. But I can't, you won't believe it, I didn't make a kobo from it.
Wow.
Because at that time too, I didn't factor in a lot of things. When you buy a phone, those kind of phones, you also pay access charge every month, whether you're using it or not. Those were those things.
Wow, yeah.
And so for some reason, we couldn't start on time. And after 3 months, I had to pay BC, kind of, instead of making money from it. And then the guy too that also managed it was so unscrupulous. He was making some calls to, because we were able to track the calls he made. But he will tell you he has not made any call today. So eventually I had to sell the box and just count my losses and started asking people to help me with my school fees. Me that was supposed to be a big boy.
Yeah.
So I learned at that time that you need to actually do your research very well. If I knew about the access charge, I would probably have had a different thought, right? Then the second time I started running my business in 2011.
Okay.
And we had very good days and we had bad days too. But sometimes in 2014, nobody needed to tell me that I needed to go and dust my CV again. And I went to pick a job. A lot of my friends didn't know because I was hiding, right? So I picked a job and I was doing that for like 2.5 years before I went back into full-time entrepreneurship. Because I made a lot of mistakes. I knew I had the skill. And that's what I tell people. Passion and skill is never enough. Because when you're going to entrepreneurship, you're not just deploying your skill. You're going to be managing people. You're going to be managing resources. You're going to be managing temperament. You're going to be managing your clients, your customers. So you think you're going to, that when you go into entrepreneurship, you don't have any boss again. You're going to have very many bosses because all your customers and your clients, they become your bosses. I didn't know a lot of these things. And so the business crumbled and I had to go look for a job, then come back and came back again, of course, with a lot more knowledge and I became wiser. And that's why I'm even doing what I'm doing today, helping entrepreneurs to navigate the very murky waters of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, you know, one thing Omobolade and I were stating before newspaper review, where we were analyzing the role of failure in an entrepreneur's growth or in an entrepreneur's journey. And I feel like failure is a subject that is not spoken about enough. I feel like, you know, okay, so I said something earlier. I said that failure is an ugly thing when you sit in it,
yes,
but it's a beautiful thing when you rise from it. So, you know, given your experience, you know, from one, you said research. You learned the importance of research. You learned the importance of actually managing temperaments and all these kind of things. The understanding that you still have a boss, even when you are a boss.
You're right.
You know, taking all of these lessons, you know, I don't want to say that you have failed, but, you know, how has failure been a tool of empowerment for you as an entrepreneur?
Okay, so somebody says success is not final. Failure is not fatal. Yeah, and I quite agree. And somebody else says we fail forward. So the important thing is that when you're failing, you're rising up and you're moving forward. Failure could actually be very essential in getting you on your way to success. Because what happens when you fail is that you learn a particular way not to do something, right? So if I failed because I did this, so that already tells me that this is not the way to do it, right? So if I learn that if I quickly start dipping hands into my company expenses to buy cars for myself, and because of that my business fails, when I rise up again, I won't make that mistake. So failure is an opportunity for you to learn. It's an opportunity for you to become tougher. It's an opportunity for you to know what to do and not what to do. So like somebody says, people should fail more often. When you fail often, you will actually become a lot better. Sometimes when people tell you don't do these things, you still want to do it. You say you have coconut head, right? But when you actually know what it means for you to do that thing and fail, nobody needs to tell you not to do it again. So sometimes we just need to learn. Yeah, people say we shouldn't always learn from your own mistake. But sometimes you need to learn from failure to know what works and what does not work so that you can also become tough and then you can be better disciplined. Failure actually helps you to become more disciplined.
Yeah.
That's what I found out.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we actually haven't started the conversation. I mean, we have, but
I don't know. Maybe we haven't.
Yeah, all right. So we have to look at some of the views from the net. Again,
Okay,
the
great.
question that we ask some of our viewers: what mistake have you made as an entrepreneur, and how do you deal with it? Now, this comment is coming from an anonymous viewer, and this person is saying, one of the biggest lessons I learned was not to spread myself too thin. Like other entrepreneurs I love, we try to do multiple things at once. And in the end, it's not entirely good for the business. But once I learned to focus all of my time and energy into one business, I was able to make it grow faster than all of my previous businesses. You know, there's a statement where they say, jack of all trades
And master of
none.
none.
Is that applicable to an entrepreneur's journey?
Okay, so I don't want to come up with an absolute statement.
Okay. Okay.
We have 3 entrepreneurs and it works for them. And then some people can't do more than one thing at a time. So what I will advise is this: it's good to have multiple expressions. Even me, I do MSME stuff, I train, I still run a marketing communications firm. But I know that, of course, one affects the other, so to say. So what I will always advise people, for them not to spread themselves too thin, get to know yourself. Some people can easily multitask. If you know you are not that kind of person, you might just want to stay with something, start it, see to a good end, right?
Yeah.
Where you know that this thing can stand on its own, get one or more people to help you with it, while you are just providing oversight function. You can now do some other things. But for some people, you can afford to actually dip your hand into many things. But what happens is that you are not running the operations. What spread people think is actually the operation part of the business.
Okay.
Not the strategy, not the management. But getting involved in day-to-day, you are the HR person, you are the finance person, you are the operations person, you are doing all the thinking and all the work. You would actually get tired and weary. But when you are just doing management, you can actually have a lot of opportunity to do more than one thing at a time. So what part of the business are you involved in day to day? If you are the one running the business day to day, I think you should just concentrate on it until you see that this thing can stand. Then when I'm not there, it can run on its own. If not, when you dip your hand into so many things and you are getting tired, you will not make success out of any of them, and you will just regret it.
So a good solution would be to find competent
managers. Yes, that could be a good solution.
Okay.
But of course, start it off.
Yeah.
Let them understudy you. Let them know how it works, right?
Yeah.
And then after you have groomed and coached them, after they have learned what to do, after they have watched you do it, then you can actually start delegating to them.
You know, I went for a conference a few years back, and I learned a phrase that has become very important to me. This phrase is residual income. Right.
Yes.
You know,
It's
and
a key one.
you know, it's something that I've realized a lot of people don't know about. A lot of people don't understand how to actually have residual income. And you know, one of the solutions to actually having residual income every month is, for instance, having multiple businesses but having competent managers. So very briefly, let us talk about residual income. How important can residual income be to an entrepreneur? It's
very important.
Right.
Because it ensures that even when you're sleeping, you're making money. And what happens is that if you're at that point where if you don't work, if you're not physically somewhere, if you're not working day to day, you're not making money, then your journey might still be a bit far as an entrepreneur. So let's say, for instance, I create an online course, and so that course is a great one. Everybody's buying it, so I don't need to even interfere with them. So they go online, buy my course. Sometimes I'm sleeping and I'm getting credit alerts. So what could be sweeter than that? That's a residual income. Or I have like a brainchild. Maybe I have written a book and people are buying. What residual income means is that the money keeps coming when I'm not actively involved in the business, right?
Yeah.
So it's good that we have residual income, things that keep generating money for us, so that even when you go on vacation, and I know, Ade, you like enjoyment. So you can be in the Bahamas, right? You can be anywhere. No, I won't lie. You can be anywhere, but money is still being made for you. That's the place where everyone should be. But sometimes people are actually self-employed. They are not entrepreneurs.
Right.
A self-employed person is, you are still exerting all your energy. You have to show up every single day to make it happen, right?
That's very interesting.
If you don't show up, money doesn't come. You are
Yeah.
still self-employed. But when you're an entrepreneur, you are creating a business, a system that can even make money whether you are there or not.
So residual income sets apart those who are self-employed
Exactly.
and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so this is one of the markers.
Yeah. Very interesting. All right, so let's have a look at the next comment. All right.
Okay.
So this is from Ayomide from Ondo State, and Ayomide is saying there are many, as in many mistakes.
I can imagine.
There are many, but I've learned from them, Sha. One of them is selling on credit to family and friends. It's so hard to get them to pay back. Revealing your business secret to some customers and not having proper accounting for the business. Bless you. Now, dealing with friends and family as a business owner can be quite tiresome. How should entrepreneurs deal with this?
Okay, so friend and family could be a blessing.
Okay.
And at the same time, they could be a pain in the neck for you. So we usually will advise that when you're even starting off, you want to bootstrap, you want to get funding and support from your family and friend. So in that case, they're a blessing to you, right? But when your family and friend are the ones that are actually impeding the progress of your business, you might actually want to be firm. Sometimes because we don't want to hurt people, and because of the familiarity and the relationship, we allow them hurt us and hurt the business that we operate. So when somebody buys on credit, do you have a credit policy, for instance? So when you have a credit policy that says, okay, when you buy a product from this company, you must pay within the next 7 days. So if that is the policy, then you should apply to everyone. And one way you can do it is, especially when you have managers, don't be the one interfacing with family and friends, right? When they want to buy things, when they want to do transactions with you, refer them to your manager. That makes it a lot easier because that one is not looking at their face like you are doing. So sometimes they will still want to call you, but you would make them realize that you are not the one that takes that decision, right? They should listen to that person. For that person can actually ask them to pay up when they are not paying up.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I know a lot of entrepreneurs will insist on you paying before you get the service, depending on what sector you operate in. But don't allow them be the death of your business because you don't want to offend them. You are not offending them, but you're offending yourself. You're killing the business.
Yeah.
And that should not be.
Yeah. All right. So just to quickly deviate to take it, the concept of what you just said, managing your books when it comes to family and friend. I want to talk about managing books very quickly and accounting, the accounting side of the business. So for instance, you have a creative person who knows how to make fantastic leather shoes, right? And that is their core skill, right? Somebody who doesn't have any background in accounting. How would such, and then maybe, money starts coming in, to this person's shop, and how would a person that does an entrepreneur that doesn't have accounting skills, manage his books or his or her books?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked a lot of times, and it's actually not a difficult thing to do.
Okay.
Number one, we start with the person understanding the importance of keeping proper records. When you understand the importance, so you would actually look for the solution. A lot of people don't think it's important until they are probably trying to apply for something and they're asking them for their records. They're asking them, what was your profit for last year? What did you make? And they can't even explain. So someone called me. They're trying to extend their business to Nigeria. It has a company in about 14 African countries. And so they are trying to do a pilot with some small business owners in Nigeria. And out of about 40 or thereabout, I can't remember the actual figures, that they deploy some questionnaires so they can benefit from what they are doing. Those guys don't know jack. They ask them, what was your turnover for last year? What's your profit? What is it? And they didn't know. And because of that, they lost that opportunity. So get to know that no investor, no bank, nobody that is doing anything financial with you wants to do business with you until they are sure that you can manage your finances well. They want to see your record, right? Right? They want to see your capacity. They want to see your track record. So when the show now understands that, then they would know that even though it doesn't have finance skills, there are things he could do. He could get that skill.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about courses on finance for non-financial people. You could get a skill. There are software, even ordinary Excel sheet could do magic for you. If he knows how to use Excel sheet to put in his expenses, and then, okay, so how much is coming in, how much is going out. At the end of the month, he can calculate his profit after. These things are not rocket science. It doesn't have to prepare a big balance sheet. So if you can use something as simple as Excel sheet or some software, it can do it. I also know that some companies and some individuals offer finance and tax services to small business owners at almost negligible cost per month. I know companies like that, because what they are looking for is the large number of entrepreneurs that can come together, pay 20,000 every month, and they have their books in order. So they come visit you maybe once in a month, once in a week. They look at all your expenses, they compile everything together. At the end of the month, the thing makes sense to you. You know how much your profit is.
Actually.
You know how much if you are making a loss and everything. So you could actually do a lot of this and get an education, use a software, use free tools like Excel sheet and some other things, or get someone to do it for him at a very, very reduced cost.
All right, so how about the role of things like invoices and receipts?
Exactly.
How important are they?
Very important. They are part of the records we're talking about. So every time you do a business with someone, generate an invoice, right? Generate an invoice when you're trying to get them to pay, right? When the business, either when the person has agreed to to, as agreed, in principle, the person is doing the business, or even after you have rendered the service, send them an invoice. That shows that this service has been, they have actually done that business with you, right? Then give them a receipt when they pay. That helps you to track everything. So when you have a pending invoice, you can know how to chase it. And there are a lot of tools that help you to do invoicing and receiving free. I don't want to mention it, but there are a lot of free tools online. Just get there and you do your free invoice, your free receipt. You're not paying a kobo for it.
I know this because, my mother, she actually downloaded an app to start making invoices and receipts. And because, she at first used to struggle trying to type it out and everything. And I just said to her, I'm sure there's an app. At the time I wasn't even sure, but I was like,
there's an app for almost everything. Almost everything.
Exactly. And that should be an encouragement to entrepreneurs.
It should be.
That probably don't have some of the skills required to run a business. As you have said, wonderfully said, get an education. But
very
then
important.
There are ways that you can solve these problems, aren't they?
Sure.
All right, so the last comment is from Jerry. Now, Jerry is saying, I did a business at some point that did not scale. After the initial failure, our investors jokingly said, consider it tuition.
Consider it what?
Consider it tuition. So I think the money that was invested into the company, the investors said, consider it as a tuition. Right. All right. So we mended along for a year, slowly bleeding money. What I regret most is not that we failed, but that we did not fail quickly enough. During this situation, it turns out that we did not know the difference between success and failure. We held on to really tiny successes among our small group of users as signs that we had something that worked. We thought the way we struggled was just the way that startup life was. The solution we have now to prevent the same mistake is to launch things on a small scale. Do it quickly and establish beforehand and very concretely what goals we have to hit for the initiative. This includes considering whether such initiative is successful and whether or not to keep investing. If we don't hit those goals, we evaluate objectively and move on, knowing that the most valuable thing we have is the time we will be spending in the future, not the time we spent in the past. Beautifully expressed by Jerry, actually. And the question I want to generate out of this is the question on, not on success and failure per se, but on the time that is actually put into entrepreneurship.
All of these things.
A lot of people think that, okay, I start this business of 6-7 months, I start cashing out, something like that, But, so Omobolade and I stated that actually, it usually takes 3 years minimum for a business to start generating income. How true is this?
Well, there is no categorical statement. It depends on the sector.
There's no absolute statement.
There is no absolute statement. So in some sector, you might start making your money even from the first month.
Interesting.
Right? It depends on what you're doing. I know a friend that even before he stepped out, he has his first check. He was going to a business and he already told his friends in the industry, I'm doing this. And somebody said, I want to encourage you. And they gave him a first check.
Wow.
And that was what he used to rent the office and what have you. So, but for a lot of businesses, it won't happen like that. you might not break even on the first, second, or third year. It depends on what you're doing, but you need to have that grit.
Yeah.
And usually we will advise that before you go into a business, have a lot of reserve that can take care of your expenses at least for 6 months where possible, so that you don't quickly, get drowned in the mystery of not making profit.
Yeah.
It can actually be heartbreaking when you're not making money.
Actually, you know, and talking about that, you know, another thing that I'm picking out from this comment is the question on the topic on prototyping and piloting.
Exactly.
I know as a content producer, as a creative person, I love piloting. Whatever idea that I want to bring into life, I prefer to pilot it first before we take it into, you know, before we spend a lot of time and money and energy, you know. So you know, that is a creative business, but in a different industry, how important is prototyping and piloting?
Prototyping and piloting are very, very important.
Right.
They help you to know whether what you're doing makes sense or it doesn't make sense. Just like he said he regret that. He doesn't like the fact that they didn't fail quickly, right? Because they kept on holding to something. So, that seems to be what the startup guys have gotten right, right? You know, the startups are actually different from the traditional and conventional MSMEs. Okay. The startup guys are the ones that you hear they've gotten funding today, they've gotten another funding tomorrow, and everybody's saying, "Oh, these guys doing it." So the startup guys have what I call a playbook. What does it mean? So before you can actually do anything, before any investor comes to you, you're working on a product, you're working on a service, you're trying to develop something, until you get to a point where you have what we call the MVP, your minimum viable product. Right. That's like the prototype you're talking, something that can, in skeletal form, show what your product can do. And then you have 1 or 2 subscribers or people that are actually adopting it. So you do a lot of beta testing, do this and that, have an MVP. It's your MVP that investor is looking for, right? So at that point, you're concentrating all your energy on it. You are looking at it, you are testing it, you are checking it. So when it scales that order, then you can start calling it investors. Unlike the traditional MSMEs, the traditional entrepreneur, we just want to go into the market, right? Everybody's doing, let's just go there. Nobody's checking it. After all, I'm not even looking for investors because traditionally, we're not looking for venture capitalists and what have you. So these guys have the playbook where it's always about testing what you have on a small scale. Right. See if it works. And when it works, then you can call in investors for rounds of funding. You talk about pre-seed, seed funding, Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3, and what have you. So that has helped the startups ecosystem to stabilize, and then you don't have as much, there are failures there too, but that idea of having an MVP, it's a very, very worthwhile one. Right. Prototype, piloting, having an MVP, doing testing and testing to be sure that this thing really makes sense. Yeah. Because sometimes they think makes sense to you. Yeah. Right? But it doesn't make sense to the market. So it's not about what you like, it's about what the market likes. Yeah. Is MVP, does it equate to USP as well, unique selling points? No. Are they, okay, what's the MVP difference? Is the minimum viable product, right? Okay. That's the minimum unit of something that makes sense, that can actually give value to the consumer. Okay. While your USP is your unique selling point, what stands you apart from every other person, what you're doing differently. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and both of them don't have to be exclusively the same thing in a business. No. They shouldn't be the same thing. They are 2 different things, but there are always intersections. Yeah. All right, so let us get into the do's and don'ts of entrepreneurship, which is actually why we invited you to the studio this morning. We've been able to establish some do's and some don'ts with the conversation preceding this, but I want us to table it for some of our viewers this morning. Now, one that I picked up from you is the importance of research, as you explained from your first entrepreneurship endeavor. You know, research is very important. What other do's should entrepreneurs be doing? Okay, I think entrepreneurs, the first thing is to have the right mindset. Okay. Because mindset is everything. Sometimes people go into entrepreneurship for the wrong reason, with the wrong mindset. So if you're going to entrepreneurship because you just want to sack your boss, or because you feel like you're going to have a lot more control over your time, because sometimes the title CEO actually is what some people are looking for. And so you want CEO beside, under your name, and then because of that, you jump into entrepreneurship. The thing is that you're not even CEO until you have other executives, you are chief executive officer, and you are just the only one person there. That's mockery, right? Yeah. So you're supposed to be CEO when you have some other executives working with you. So sometimes the mindset is the #1 thing that people make mistake with. And that's one, correct your mindset. You're not going there because you want to get rich quick, because you want to sack your boss, or because, like somebody says, that salary is the bribe they pay you to forget about your dream, and so you think you are better than a 9-to-5 guy. No. You're going there because you have the right mindset. Entrepreneurship is about solving a problem, right?
Right.
Solving a problem, taking risk, while hoping to make a profit. There are always risk elements in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So you talk of risk, you talk of profit, you talk of a venture, and of course, so all of that, and then you talk of value. There must be value you are putting on the table.
Yeah.
If all of those things are not complete, maybe you should not do it. That's one mistake, wrong mindset. Then I think people also should learn to delay gratifications. Sometimes you think you're making money, and then already you are dipping money, you are buying big cars and everything, and then you find out that along the line, you are not able to meet up, right? That's another thing. Then also, like we talked about bookkeeping. If you're not keeping your book, it will be a lot of problem. Most of the time, entrepreneurs have cash flow problem. They are not able to meet their day-to-day expenses because they didn't plan for it. They don't know what their ratios are, they don't know what their figures are, and so they run into trouble midway, and they're not able to meet all their responsibilities. They are not able to take care of it. So those things are very important. Then I also need to mention the place of capacity development, learning how to run a business, apart from just having passion for business. Being a professional is different from being an entrepreneur. A professional has a skill. I could be a doctor, right, for 20 years. But the fact that I'm a doctor for 20 years doesn't mean I will run a clinic effectively. Because when I start running a clinic, I'm not just performing surgery and taking care of patients. I'm also managing people. I'm managing resources. I'm taking financial decisions. So do I have those skills, or am I just bringing my medical skill? So I need to learn how to run a business before starting. And even while I have a business, I should keep learning. I should keep learning so that I don't fail.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about the role of planning in developing a business. You know, initially we've spoken about the importance of prototyping and piloting when you're developing a new idea. Now, however, some people plan so much that the idea does not leave the plan.
It doesn't.
You know, it never takes off. So how long should a person plan? And when as an entrepreneur do you know that it is time to stop planning and it's time to start taking off? How do you know?
So that's what people call analysis paralysis. So you are busy analyzing and looking at the books, and then 3 years you are still planning and planning and planning. And you know what? God help you, the thing you're planning to do, somebody just comes and they just
start it.
I think, like, did somebody copy what I've been thinking of? So you shouldn't stay too long planning, right? Get to a point where you're convinced that this thing can work, or I'm willing to take a risk. And that's why you should test the waters. For instance, you're still a 9-to-5 person. Why not start it as a side hustle? Test it, right? Then you're able to stabilize. You can decide to now jump ship and face it squarely. But don't do too much of planning and planning and planning. Let it jump from the paper, right, to the marketplace. Test it, be sure. But a lot of time, you're so fascinated and excited about what you're planning. You feel like if this thing gets to the market, they will think, I'm going to make billions. But until you get there. And then sometimes the reason why people don't stop planning is because of fear. You have been pumped up and everything, you've done strategy session, but something will tell you, will this thing work? What if it doesn't work, and what have you? So that's why you need to start slowly, right? Just start testing the water. Don't put your 2 feet inside the river so that the crocodile doesn't swallow the two. All right, so so that's what I think.
All right, now, so for entrepreneurs, now this question is for entrepreneurs who are just starting off, right? Now, so for entrepreneurs who have started off, they've probably hit a big fish or a big net, you know. How do you advise such entrepreneurs to create a sustainable business? How do you advise an entrepreneur who has not, because, you know, I've realized that there are different sides of businesses, and your experience, so some people have experience starting up business, some people have experience, you know, sending in contracts, but then they've never seen the other side of, for instance, getting an investor that invest in their business, or they've not seen the other side of implementing an investor's money. How do you advise an entrepreneur who is new in these waters in creating a business that is able to stand the test of time? To create a business that is able to stand the test of time, the first thing you need to do
apart from getting all the knowledge and the skill, is to create a system. Start seeing that business as being separate from you. And that's like the deliverance for most entrepreneurs. If you're able to cross that order where you don't see it as just me, and me, it happens to the best of us, right? But when you start seeing it as a system that should stay for long, right? You start thinking the right way. You start thinking of bringing in employees. And sometimes you might not even bring in employees. Like I talk about the playbook for startups. They talk about bringing in co-founders. What that helps is that co-founders are also risk takers with you, right? They also are bringing in a lot of competencies to the table. So you are thinking this direction, but two other people are saying, no, that will not work. So you're able to check your ideas instead of you just the only person taking all the ideas and then you might get it wrong. You know, two good heads are better than one. Now you're going to have like 2, 3, 4, 5 heads. So get co-founders where possible. Apart from the fact that you're able to have a lot of contribution that would help move the business forward, it also saves you a lot of cost. How? Initial cost. When you employ, you're paying salary. Co-founders usually are saying, we have equity in the business. So they are not asking you for salary. No. We are all in it together. So you're able to save the little you're making to actually grow the business, plow it back until you get to a point where you can now start earning from the equity that you have in the business. Okay, so have a system that can run. Even when you're not there, let that system be able to run the business for you, because the job of a CEO is not to be doing operations. It's to be thinking at a level where you can strategize. You can create another business unit. You can even think of another business, right? You can look at the possibilities. How can we scale? The startup guy, he sets out, he gets an MVP, and then he's thinking of how to bring in investors.
Right.
And so he gets one round of funding, they implement something, he gets another round, and it looks like they are the only ones who know how to do this thing. It's because from the onset, they have a mindset of growth. One thing about startup is that they always think of scaling even before starting. So if the product is not scalable, we are not doing it. If the service is not scalable, we are not doing it, right? But some other guys, they just want to meet their family needs. That's the thinking. And so they get to a point where they want to scale, but the product is not scalable. Their structure does not allow for them to scale. It becomes a problem. And in business, stagnancy is just like an illusion. It's either you're growing or you're falling down, right? So you get to a point where you are just like stagnant. You know that is a downward spiral.
Wow. So what I've really learned from you this morning is that at the roots, at the foundation of an entrepreneurship actually is mindset.
Exactly.
The mindset that you're bringing into that business.
Exactly. It's very important.
Yeah. And I've come to learn that with an entrepreneurship, when you have the mindset of a solution provider, of somebody who provides solution, it seems to take you far in business. Is that correct?
That's it. So the idea is that I'm providing a solution, I'm meeting a need, and then I'm hoping to make profit. No, not my needs. I mean, how much is my own need? That would bring me all the money, right?
Exactly.
I'm meeting the needs of the consumer. I'm providing value for them, and in exchange for that value, they are willing to part with their money, and that's how I make profit. And then I'm willing to scale. If I'm reaching 100 consumers, I can scale to meet 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and then the money keeps coming.
Interesting.
That's the basic idea. Okay. But I need to have that mindset from the beginning. Right.
All right, Seye Olurotimi, thank you very much for joining us on Tea or Coffee. Now, before you go, I know some entrepreneurs watching this show would want some form of encouragement, some form of advice, considering that we're in Global Entrepreneurship Week. So that is your camera. Okay. You can just, few words of advice.
All right. So it's Global Entrepreneurship Week, and it's something celebrated across the world. And it's a good point. It's a good place to say, well done to everyone who is an entrepreneur, because I know it's not something easy. It takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of resilience to be an entrepreneur. And so I would say, whatever you're doing, whatever level you are, don't give up, right? And don't feel small. You get to know that this person is doing so amazingly well, and it looks like you're not doing well. And a couple of times you've asked yourself, who even sent me to be doing this? The gist is that at some point you're just going to get to that point, and then you will thank yourself for staying on and for doing what you're doing. So success is never final. Failure is not fatal, right? So keep doing it. Keep getting more resourceful. Keep getting knowledge. Keep developing yourself, and then you're just going to make it. All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Seye Olurotimi.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Please come back. Okay.
I will.